Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Raw Conversations, where we will be sharing insights and having meaningful conversations with some amazing people in the nutrition and wellness space. I'm your host, Sharon Cryan, founder and CEO of Food Nerd, and today's guest is Sue and her daughter, Ciara, from HerStory / HerKitchen and HerSanctuary. Sue is a cancer survivor and a plant-based entrepreneur, and her daughter Ciara is right alongside her. So we have both of them on the show today, which is super exciting. Welcome, Sue and Ciara. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us. We're really excited to be here.
Awesome. So you guys are Buffalo based as well. So we're both Western New York, which is really, this touches super close to home for both of us. And so, you know, if Sue, if you can kind of give us a background, a little bit about yourself, your journey, and kind of high level, how you got to where you are today.
Well, I am, first and foremost, I'm a mom, and I am a registered nurse. I am a breast cancer survivor, thriver, and I am an entrepreneur. I was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2007. And it pretty much turned my life upside down. I was running a business with my daughter that I started. Actually, we're celebrating 30 years. So started 30 years ago. And it was a business that was all about celebrating women and their stories and having products that were always near and dear to my heart and had a lot of meaning and a lot of reason behind the women that were creating these products. So after I went through breast cancer, I continued with this journey of sharing stories, and we relocated our business to Elmwood Avenue and continued the HerStory story of sharing stories and women's stories. And I in 2016, my sister passed away from breast cancer. So during that time, Ciara and I helped her to create a sanctuary space. I am all about, I guess to back it up for a minute, my food journey began when I was a child. I grew up on a farm, and I grew up having fruits and vegetables at my fingertips all the time. And when you're a kid, you don't really realize, eat your fruits and vegetables. You're like, yeah, right, whatever. You don't really realize that till you get older and you really start to see the really importance of like whole, clean food. So when I was going through breast cancer, there's so many things that are out of your control. So what I knew that I could control was my food. So I went back to just the simplicity of clean eating and learning as much as I could about food. So then going back to the part about sanctuary space that we created. While my sister was going through breast cancer, we created a sanctuary space for her so she could learn about food and health and wellness and all different things to nurture herself mentally, spiritually, and physically. So after she passed away, I wanted to continue that memory of her with having a space where women could learn about taking care of themselves mentally, spiritually, and physically. And HerSanctuary was born from that. So that's a space where we provide all different workshops and events for women to come in, share their products, share their services that they offer, and HerSanctuary came from that. And then the third part of our business that I do, maybe I'll let Ciara just talk a little bit about that, where HerKitchen, no, you're not. So the third part of it is HerKitchen. So really, when you look at HerStory, HerSanctuary, and HerKitchen, it's been a journey of my life and our life. So HerKitchen was born out of learning about plant-based wellness and wanting to share it with as many people as we could possibly share it with. So HerKitchen was born from wanting to give people the knowledge and the power to take care of themselves.
That's awesome. Well, what a journey. I think anybody who's listening that has anybody that is currently has breast cancer, or, everybody absolutely knows someone that has suffered from it or has passed away from it. And I think especially just for females, how how it is, I can imagine a journey of really that self-reflection time. And, besides, kind of HerSanctuary and what you guys have done, you don't really hear a lot about, women creating other space for other women to actually, while they're going through it, to kind of do that self-discovery and to kind of connect with other women. And I think that's, probably one of the hardest parts about going through it is feeling alone and like you don't have that space. So yeah, I think it's amazing what you guys are doing. And obviously this hits home for you so deeply because of your sister. And so, I couldn't imagine, going through that, myself, let alone myself, and knowing my sisters as well. So what you guys have created, truly has the ability to impact so many people because it's everything for you and what your purpose is here. So, if you had to say to anybody listening that maybe is currently going through breast cancer, how can they reach out? How can they, go to your guys' website and be able to start that journey of creating their own sanctuary, or how can they work with you right now?
So we actually have a spot on our website at herstorybuffalo.com where you can actually tell us your story. So as much as we're about telling the stories of the women who create products in our space, we're also about hearing the stories of our customers and people that we connect with as well. It actually is kind of a running joke between us that my mom, never got anything done because she was always talking to people and talking to our customers. An hour would go by and, they'd just be sitting there telling them her story. And that's really become part of our business. So there's a little form you could fill out, and it has some different prompts about kind of just, different things that you might have had to deal with in your life. And that's kind of a good spot for people to connect with us and tell us your story.
Oh, it's beautiful. I guess kind of, I think food is, it's such an emotional thing, right? And it's, to me, food is mostly feminine nature. I mean, when I think of food, I think of my mother, and I think of like just nourishment in general. Do you find that, when women come to you, do you find that oftentimes the nutrition component is something that's really difficult for them to kind of have the self-reflection on? Or what do you feel like where do you feel the resistance is with that?
Well, you know what, coming from a breast cancer answer for that, there's a lot of conflict about what to eat, what not to eat. When you're going through chemo, if you're going to be sick, is this good for you? Should it be organic? So it's very conflicting. And, for myself personally, I think that just going back to the simple, eating your fruits and vegetables, it doesn't have to be so complicated because it's really just that simple. And I think that not overthinking it. So if you just look at, for me, growing up, how I grew up on a farm and everything, that was like a comfort. That was like my inner child. It, reminded me of my mother and dinners and home cooked meals and stuff. So that is where I was able to like step into that. So I think if you just look at simplicity of what we used to eat, whole, simple foods, that it's a much better way to be able to connect with that and not feel that resistance, because it is challenging, especially if you have to do chemotherapy and, being told, what to eat and not to eat is challenging. But getting back to simplicity is really where I started.
Awesome. And I guess one of the, and Ciara, I can imagine, kind of having to watch your mother and your aunt kind of go through this, their journeys with breast cancer. I know one of the main reasons that I got into the health and wellness space was because my mother has multiple sclerosis. And so watching her struggle with the autoimmune disease, like really kind of, especially at a young age, it really shakes you, and you're just, that's the person, that's like your world, right? Especially as a daughter, like your mother is your everything. And so, how is, kind of when did that journey start for you, kind of realizing, my mother does have this, or my aunt has this, this disease, and what is that kind of, how's that shaped your mind of of her personally, but also for just wanting to help other people?
Well, I think it kind of ties back to, everything my mom said too about, our journey, that being able to look back at what we've done and how we got here, and realizing that really has gotten us to this point. Without going through those things, we wouldn't be the strong women that we are. And just remembering that we need to help other people who may not be able to see that strength in themselves. So I'm very fortunate that even though it was a struggle, that I had somebody in my life that showed me how to take a struggle and turn it into something positive and something that inspires you to help other people. So, I guess just really being able to look back and be thankful for the experience, even though it was difficult.
Right. That's so powerful. And I think that's one of the things I think of is, somebody who may be listening, who their mother or, a female in their life passed away from breast cancer. If they're no longer here with us, what kind of, things can they do to continue that process of like honoring them, and still, because even though someone you love passes away who has breast cancer, you're still here, you're still missing them every day, you're still going through that journey. What is something that, the loved ones can kind of do to help keep everything alive and to keep that strength going?
Well, I think that answer is going to be different for everybody. I know for us personally, there's a lot of things that we do, and, we honor my aunt every day through the work that we do with other people. But I think that's really kind of individualized and going to look different for each person. And I think that it's really just about doing what feels best for you.
Yeah, and I would agree. I mean, I think that for me it is trying to look inside and find that inner strength, because we all have it. And a lot of times we're afraid to step into that, but to not let fear be the driver of that, try to realize that you do have that strength. And if you can't find it on your own, there's a whole slew of us, there's a whole group of us that are there to help and support you. And I feel like that is another really big part of our business that has been so significant to me, is that I wasn't journeying this alone. I had so many amazing women that helped me, that taught me things about myself, and mentally, spiritually, and physically. And it was just so amazing. And it felt so good to know that you basically weren't by yourself. And so, giving that strength to others when they can't find it themselves is very rewarding. But once you find it on your own, you'll be like, wow, okay, I can do this. And it's like, you just put one foot in front of the other and you keep going. And when you have times when you feel like you can't go on, is when you lean on the people that your tribe, your girl gang, or whatever you want to call it, to be there for you. And that's where I feel very blessed for what we've collected along the way, in our business. And it's been pretty powerful.
That's awesome. So, I kind of want to transition to like one of the things that HerStory does is you guys highlight products that are owned by female entrepreneurs, and you guys sell those products, you promote those products, you kind of create relationship with the female entrepreneurs, and really get to put meaning behind products. And I think that's there's kind of two things I want to talk about. One is just female founders in general, but also the fact that there's so many products out there, and so many of them are just competing on different marketing terms, but really getting to know, like, okay, the energy that went behind the actual intention and creation of the product makes the biggest difference. And one of the first things is that most people don't realize that female entrepreneurs, only around 2% of female entrepreneurs get funding. And that's something that is really difficult for any female entrepreneur that's listening or that wants to start a business. It's discouraging. You think about, I have this really great idea. And honestly, I am probably completely biased because I am a female, but I think most innovative ideas come from the feminine energy, because we are often the problem solvers, right? Like there's something that is not going right, and we are the ones that are just left to our own devices to try to improv and fix things. So what's frustrating is that when you see, you know, all these incredible ideas by females, but only 2% will get funding, which means only 2% of those can really actually impact the amount of people that they should. And so, you know, what you guys do is you kind of put them on a pedestal and you help them, you know, realize and probably encourage them, you know, to keep going. And even though, you know, the stats are kind of, they're getting more and more in female entrepreneur, you know, favor, but they're not there yet. And it's really unfortunate because for whatever reason, just the entrepreneur scene is very masculinely dominated. And so what are some things, and maybe if you even want to throw, you know, any examples of some of your favorite female entrepreneurs and their stories, you know, what is your experience with, you know, seeking out, you know, new female product, you know, female founded products and stuff? What is that journey like for you guys?
You want it?
Well, I would say it kind of happened organically when we first started. Before we were actually called HerStory, we were Lotions and Potions. We started off blending fragrances and different bath and body care. And over the years, it just kind of evolved because we kept making these connections with these people, and we felt that the name didn't accurately reflect what our mission was anymore. So that's kind of where HerStory came from. It wasn't necessarily something we had intended to do, but something that just kind of naturally occurred over time. We had so many just amazing, amazing women that were creating these products. And we really just wanted to give them a chance to have a space to showcase them. We do carry women-owned business products. We carry women artists, and not just from Buffalo, but from across the country as well. But I will say that here in Western New York, we do have an overwhelming amount of amazing women entrepreneurs that we just couldn't even fill the space.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's overflowing with different people to choose from. So I will say that even if the stats maybe across the country don't look so great, I'm so inspired by all of the amazing women entrepreneurs here in Western New York too.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I would agree too. And I think that another really great thing about, you know, what we have created and what we do is like you were talking about funding and stuff. And, you know, maybe a woman having this dream that she wants to have her own business, but she's afraid. She doesn't know if she can afford a space. She doesn't, you know all the workings behind it. So having a space where we can highlight, you know, and showcase what they do is a really great way to kind of test the market for them and allow us to like help them, you know, get to the next level of like what they want to accomplish for themselves. And I think that feels really good in here. And, you know, we've been doing that. My God, it's like Ciara said, especially in Buffalo, we're like overwhelmed with so many amazing women doing great stuff, not just their products, but their services, you know, services that are helping women. You know, I always say women, and we'll get men that'll be like, oh, is this just for women? When's there going to be a his story? And I'm like, okay, you know, it's just that we've just always connected with women. And, but oh gosh,
they tend to take the products and bring them home to the men, and then it happens by, you know, osmosis to them. They get to experience it. But exactly.
And I think there's a lot to be said about women working together and in a space and just that energy and that creativity and that inspiration and that feeling of just like helping each other get to where they need to go is just a very rewarding feeling. So, you know, it's been a great journey. I don't think I would change anything. And I think that when I talk about it, it really has been the journey of my life, my daughter's life. And, you know, so it's my story, her story, and it's like our story, because we all have a story that needs to be told, you know?
Awesome. And, you know, we're based in Western New York, Buffalo, New York, you know, and I think that, you know, when you dive into some of the stats, and obviously I'm super stat focused for a lot of the things that we look at. And unfortunately, Buffalo has very high rates of chronic disease and especially cancer rates here. So we have, you know, institutions here that are, you know, world renowned for our cancer research and such. And I guess your guys' experience with, with Buffalo in particular, and how, we're not necessarily known as a healthy city. We're not like the West Coast or Colorado. We're not really compared to being very innovative as far as our health and wellness. And we're still kind of known for our buffalo and chicken wings and our beer and all of the, what makes Buffalo kind of Buffalo. But in your opinion, have you guys seen any type of transition to, just within your customer base of people wanting to kind of break that stereotype and wanting to really feel like we can be a really health forward thinking city?
Yeah, absolutely. I know Ciara is, I'm gonna add my 2 cents, and then I'm gonna let Ciara talk about a couple things, bridging that together. But I think that what is really great is we have a lot of local farmers markets, and that's a great place to start, where you can get all sorts of local produce and start to learn about how to incorporate those into your diet. So people have actually turned that into like Saturday morning rituals. I love rituals. So on Saturday morning, let's get up, let's get our tea, let's get our coffee, and let's walk to the farmers market. Let's meet the farmers and the people that are growing these foods and stuff. And I think that, unfortunately, as you said, that this area has a lot of high incidence of a lot of different autoimmune diseases and cancer. And so we do have a lot of people that come to us regular, because just for myself, it's been 14 years. They're like, how are you surviving? How are you thriving? What foods did you eat? How did you manage that? So I think that having all the local produce and stuff that we have is a really nice way to start.
And I think, hey, one of the things you just mentioned was the rituals part. And I know for me, if I don't have my rituals in place and I kind of start to, you kind of let the mind wander, and you don't really, for some people, rituals can really make or break the difference between them having, a really positive, emotional, mentally healthy day, versus them having a really bad day. And what is, I guess, like you just mentioned, on your Saturday, you like to get up, you like to make sure that you're keeping yourself in that, especially if you're currently suffering with any type of cancer, any type of illness, creating that structure to make sure that you're staying, almost like in charge of your mental state, so you don't let, the sadness seep in, or kind of focus on the pain and things like that. What are some of the techniques that you've kind of suggested to women in Buffalo to kind of stay in a ritual and not kind of get sucked into necessarily the not so healthy behaviors that we have as a city?
Well, I think first and foremost is to let go of the things that you can't control, and to step into the things that you can control. And to me, the first and foremost is we can control what we put in our body and what we put on our body. So, it's just that simple, so starting with that, so you're not getting overwhelmed. And, maybe getting a buddy, getting another woman that you love to walk with. And like I said, my daughter and I, that's like a great way for us to, connect and start our weekend together, and, learn about different ways to eat healthy. We share recipes and stuff. So,
I'd say one of my mom's go-to rituals is her wheatgrass shot every day. That's something that she doesn't miss, without fail. That she does that every day. And I think that's a really important part of your ritual.
Yeah, definitely. Let's see, 13 years straight, every day juicing my own wheatgrass. Yeah, like it's my incredible job. Like, I'm not even kidding. My naturopath doctor, he's like, he doesn't have to worry about me getting my magnesium and different vitamins and minerals, because he knows how hardcore I juice my wheatgrass. So,
and if she ever misses it, if we're away or something like that,
I have to seek it out.
We make
Seek
sure
it.
to go wherever we can find it. So.
Yeah. I mean, that's a great thing to incorporate though, you know, if people want to learn more about wheatgrass, because I'm telling you, it's a great way to get a lot of your produce in a, you know, it's a lot of bang for your buck. I always say, you know, it's equal, 1 ounce is 2.5 pounds of organic produce, you know, and it's so good for cleaning your blood and getting rid of toxins and stuff. And so I made sure that I, you know, did it after I went through all the chemo and the radiation and everything, because it's a good way to, you know, get rid of toxins and help your liver.
That's amazing. And so kind of like one of my big things that I wish, you know, that's one of the things I really want to have an impact on is trying to transition the mindset of healthy eating and healthy rituals from more of like, oh, I have to, it's a punishment, and you know, feeling bad about yourself versus like making it something like holding yourself accountable to that daily, you know, like self-love act. And like, instead of looking at it like, oh, I have to take this gross wheatgrass shot, right? Instead of thinking of it like that, but thinking of it like, I'm so like, I love myself so much right now that I know that this is going to help my body. And like, I'm honored that I care this much about myself, and trying to change that mindset, because I with so many of the customers that we have, it's, you know, it's never a question of, do I want to eat healthier? Do I know that wheatgrass shot's better for me? Maybe than something else that I was going to put in my body. But it's, for whatever reason, just society, we've kind of conditioned us to think healthy eating is like this thing that you do when you eat really bad. And now I got to self-correct for a short period of time and go on a diet. And then I got to punish myself. And how have you, because 13 years, like honestly, like the self-awareness and accountability that it takes to be that dedicated for that long period of time and to still be excited about it. Like, how have you kind of taken your mindset and made it something that's you're excited to do and that you feel like, you know, like honored to do for yourself? How have you done that? That's probably, I think, the most difficult thing by far.
It is, but you know what? I think the big part of it is how you actually feel, you know? So when you start feeding yourself all these good things, you feel good physically, but also mentally, you know? And I think that's the ticket right there is how you feel when you're doing these things, you know? And, you know, as you start to feel better, you're like, oh my gosh, why wouldn't I do this? I feel amazing. But it's also having that balance of allowing yourself to, like, you know what, if you want to have an ice cream or you want to have a bag of chips, you're gonna be okay with that, because you know what, on top of that, you need to find the joy. So if you're going to get an ice cream with your family and you're going to be hardcore on yourself to not eat it and to like suffer guilt afterwards, you don't want to do that either, you know? So it's finding a balance and knowing that, you know, you can do all these things to help yourself feel better, but you can also, you know, have times when, hey, if you just want to eat that's fine, and don't beat yourself up about it.
Because at that point, you know, you're kind of stealing the joy from it anyway.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
you know, guilt is a worse emotion for you, I think, than however bad that ice cream is. So
yeah,
100%. And I think that's one of the things exactly. Guilt every 2 hours about ice cream. No, and you know, one of the things I think that I, you know, struggled with when I first transitioned into even just being vegetarian and before plant-based was like, you know, I would know that like, oh, and that's where I think like the concept of like a cheat day kind of throws me off in some ways, because it makes it kind of seem like all the other days are kind of punishment. And that's the one day you get to enjoy your food. And it's like, it sucks, right? So, you know, I would always like go super hardcore intense for like 6 days. And then like that whole day, you know, I would like binge on bad food. And then you feel really terrible physically after. And then you're just like, oh, so you feel guilty. And then, you know, that finding that balance, I think, is like truly what lifestyle is. Like, if you can look at yourself and say, okay, you know what, for me, we all have our emotional foods. And I would love to hear after this what you guys' emotional food is, because we all have one. Growing up, my mom, we always had tea and toast. Like, toast is like my emotional, just, oh my God, like it's just, it brings you back to being like 5 years old, like sitting in my mom's lap. So having a really nice, you know, almond milk sugary tea and some cinnamon sugar toast is like, you know, sunshine inside my soul. So, instead of saying I'm never going to have that again because it's not good for me and I could have, a piece of, apple instead, knowing that, the times that I feel that emotion coming up, to make sure, I create a space for myself. If I'm going to have that emotional Sunday morning, have it. But then for lunch, I'm going to have a bomb kale salad, and I'm going to make sure I'm going to have something really healthy for dinner. And it's like that self-awareness of like having that balance and being mindful of you do it, because if you're not mindful and you're just automatically grabbing things, that's when you also are not in control, right? You lose that, like, oh shit, I just had like 25 pieces of chocolate because I wasn't mindful as I was doing it. And then, I think like there's so many different rituals that people could take up, like whether it's journaling or, whatever it is, to kind of have that self-reflection. And that's one of the things I always suggest, or if anybody's listening, if there's like that one thing that pops into your mind all the time, especially when you're sad, like if you're sad or I'm having a stressful day with business or whatever, it's like literally like toast will just float in my mind. I just see it, and it's crazy because I'm like, stomping that part of me down is denying part of myself, right? And so, I always tell people, I'm like, write it down, like I'm craving toast, which probably means I'm sad or stressed. And then first dealing with the emotion and then go back to the food. And if you're still craving it after you've dealt with the emotion, then totally sit and, have that moment with yourself. And so I imagine you guys probably have, customers that are like, oh, I can't give this up or whatnot. But what is your guys' emotional food? And it may be the same. You got mother and daughter, it may be the same thing, but like, what is it that you just like dream about when you're sad? You're just like, oh.
Honestly, toast is pretty high up there for me. But I would say pasta. That's kind of my like go-to, feel good kind of food.
Now, what kind of pasta is it? Like like spaghetti? Any pasta? Okay.
Absolutely.
Sue, what's yours?
Oh God.
Wheatgrass. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. You know what? I think that
It's tough.
Oh, it's
Chips.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. Chips. Yeah.
Healthy chips.
Healthy chips, like my kettle chips.
Okay. Yeah.
Definitely. But I think that when you're talking about, I don't know. My inner child loves fruit, and when I think about, I get so excited if I'm at the farmer's market and I'm buying cherries, because it reminds me of growing up, and it reminds me of sitting in the cherry trees with my sister and eating cherries till we had stomach aches, and that whole feeling of like being alive and young, and just, so I can't really think of anything else. What do you do?
Well, my answer was going to be green beans before.
Oh, yeah,
if
definitely.
it was something, that was still relatively healthy, I'd say green beans. I literally will just go in the garden and pick green beans off the pole and eat them. My nanny didn't have a bowl of green beans on the counter. One year for my birthday, I actually got 2 pounds of green beans as a birthday gift. So, but just because that's, a healthy thing doesn't mean it's still not an emotional thing tied to food.
Absolutely. Isn't that amazing how like, I don't know what it is. I always tell people, it's always something when you were young. It's me when I try to like walk people through that, like, okay, tell me the moment where you maybe first had it. It's usually like that emotional connection to that food usually happens between ages like 3 and 6. It's like that window of like, you're not too young, you're becoming self-aware, and you're starting to like really emotionally connect with your loved ones. And it's usually your grandmother, or it's usually your mother, and it's usually like that time frame of like when just the physiological, emotional connection happens. And so, for me, it's funny because for so long I wasn't really self-aware of it. And I just thought like, oh my God, bread, toast is so addicting or whatever. And then I was like, started journaling about it, and I was like, oh my gosh, like this is really deep. This is a really emotional connection that I have with toast. And I'm like, why am I dreaming about toast? And I'm like, it's not toast, it's my mom. Like I moved away from college, and I missed her so much. And like, so even though like my automatic habit was to just like go get that or go, then reach for like a bagel or something that reminded me of it. Like I started realizing, oh my God, I just miss my mom. So I would call my mom right in that moment and then I realized it wasn't me, it was my two older sisters that also like, that was their emotional thing. And to this day, my sister eats, now it's a gluten-free, like sprouted toast, and there's healthier options for it. But it's so funny because like, I think if we just mindlessly don't, kind of learn ourselves in that way, we can become victim to it instead of owning it, and like, so it's funny, like my family now, we're starting this like tea and toast kind of once a month kind of tea party where all the girls in the family get together and we're going to have a ton of tea and like a ton of like toast baguettes and all the things just to like kind of create something beautiful and positive of it instead of looking at like this negative thing, and then using the healthier options, and when I see you guys like together, that's what it like reminds me of like bringing like the human back to our food, bringing like that feminine like connection to food, because now everything's so processed and packaged and fake and definitely has no human energy, no love into it. It was designed by, a company that's trying to just hit a trend, and so, a homemade meal, something that actually has meaning to it, while it may not be the healthiest thing for you, because your whole nervous system is in such a calm state and such a loving place, you're going to digest it better, right? There's so many aspects to it that, where science is now kind of starting to identify, right? Like, what is the body doing when you're stressed and you're just grabbing these processed foods versus when you're sitting down having a meal with your loved ones? And I don't know if that's, part of what you guys suggest for, for the Her Kitchen. I know I kind of want to dive into that. And I know, Ciara, you're kind of pushing things forward in Buffalo on the plant-based side with more whole food plant-based, like cooked meals. And so I'd love for you guys to kind of tell me a little bit more about Her Kitchen and what your goals are with that. And then what you're doing in Buffalo about it, because I think that people really need help, when they're going out and eating. And I know that's what you're passionate about, Ciara. So tell us all about Her Kitchen.
Well, what I was thinking earlier listening to you talk to is when you said it's a lifestyle. And I think that that's something we're really trying to get people to realize through Her Kitchen, is that it's not just a plant-based diet, it's about a plant-based lifestyle. And one of the main things that we talk about during the class is that it's more about what you're adding into your diet, because the more good things you add, there's less room for the bad things, and for you to make those choices naturally to gravitate towards those good things. And then it doesn't feel like you're so restricted or like you're giving it up. It's more of a conscious choice and decision based on how much better you feel. So that's something that we are really trying to incorporate into all of the aspects of Her Kitchen. So we have our plant-based marketplace on our website where people can go and get different pantry supplies to add to their kind of plant-based kitchens. We have our plant-based subscription box where it's once a month. It has a different variety of items, including Food Nerd overnight oats this month. And just different ways to be able to incorporate plant-based items into your daily diet. And then we do our plant-based cooking classes, which are all virtual right now. We started them out with an introductory class, which is all about the basics of plant-based lifestyle, not just about the food, but also incorporating different wellness techniques and things into that, and really the education behind why plant-based. And then our newest series that we're doing is chef and restaurant based here in Buffalo. So we're featuring different local restaurants that are embracing having plant-based vegan or vegetarian options on their menu all the time. I think that it's a common misconception, coming from, I worked in the food industry for the last 10 years, that, if you're plant-based or you're vegan, you can't eat out. Or, there's no options for you, or that you're an inconvenience to the restaurant or to the chef. And kind of breaking through that and realizing that a lot of these chefs, they do care about their ingredients. They do care about, the seasonal vegetables and them tasting as amazing as they possibly can, and having these options available because, they care about their customers. And kind of bridging that gap between the two worlds is kind of my personal goal for that series. So.
And yeah, I mean, I think I can definitely attest to that when everybody's like, well, what do you eat when you go out? Or when I go out to dinner, they're all like, well, you pick because, and I'm just, no, you guys pick because I promise you, we will find something vegan on the menu. Like, and it's kind of crazy when you think about it, you know, because really plant-based is just any plant. So if we're going to a restaurant and they don't have plants, like we have an issue, right? And it's like every restaurant has a plant-based option. If they don't, I found more than not, I would say 9 times out of 10, the chef is so excited to just whip up something different that they actually come out of the kitchen. They present, you know, what they made for me. They're excited to say, hey, we threw this together, we threw this, and we did this. And like, honestly, I think it's probably some of the best culinary dishes I've ever had is when a chef, like at a non-traditional vegan restaurant, makes me a dish and like it's just amazing because all that extra thought and love that went into it. And I think what you're doing is so important because like, you know, you can get really intimidated as a vegan person. You don't want to like step on like toes and you feel really awkward being like, hey, can you make something that's vegan? And then you have to like explain what vegan is. And like, so, you know, being able to like speak, you know, kind of be proactive like you're doing and go to these restaurants and say like, hey, you know, these are all of the different, you know, options that can be made for a vegan restaurant or whatever it is. And being able to like, then tell people like, hey, go to this restaurant because they have this amazing vegan pasta. Like that literally would make a plant-based person or someone trying to go plant-based feel so much more confident going out and like owning that instead of having to be all like sketchy and secretive about it. So I think that's huge. And I think what you're doing, like when you were talking about it before, like I see it being like, you know, so much more than buffalo. Like I can see you kind of like bringing that to like just like you know, kind of expanding it online and allowing people to say like, you know, here's the top 10 places in Buffalo or whatever city to go eat and eat these dishes, right? And the chefs are super excited to make them and flipping that whole script, you know, like you said, like making it actually the opposite of like this daunting thing. So yeah, so I'm excited to like, you know, everything that you're doing with the local restaurants, because there's a few I saw on there that I didn't even know they had plant-based options. And now I'm like, oh, next Friday, that's what we're doing, right? Like, it's like, you know, it's exciting instead of.
That's the case for a lot of people too. And obviously with the pandemic that's going on and stuff, local restaurants really need our help and support too. So finding a way that we can work together with other, you know, whether it's women-owned restaurants or women chefs, I think is really important to us too. So.
And I think the whole concept of starting Her Kitchen was also about may her kitchen be her sanctuary. So it's about not looking at your kitchen as, oh my God, what do I got to make tonight? This is so stressful. I don't want to have to do it. And just kind of making you fall in love with your kitchen again, and that it's not that difficult. And a lot of things you already have in your pantry, you know what I mean? And it's just giving you a different way to create them and using different amazing herbs and spices to give you all the health benefits that come along with it and stuff. And it doesn't have to be complicated. And once again, I get back to that simplicity, you know, because people do get overwhelmed, and it doesn't have to be that difficult. You can start with some real simple things. And also another thing that was important to me along with this series was providing a workbook for you to learn about the plant-based wellness and the whole idea behind it and why it's good and why it's healthy, and then incorporating mindful eating and your sleep. And like Ciara said, it's a lifestyle. And once you start doing it, you feel amazing and you almost don't want to stop, because you know, we're not like, take this out, don't eat meat, don't do this. That isn't what we're about. We're about adding in and letting you be your own judge of like, wow, like we've even had women that have taken our class that they're like, their husbands have been like hardcore like meat eaters, and they're like, wow, this is really good, you know. So that's when we talk about how the woman, you know, brings it home to the guy, to the man, you know. And it's like, wow, what, there's not meat in here,
so their whole family is,
so exactly. So we're really excited about it, and we have a lot more to come with it.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
So exciting. And just like one of the last things I want to say is, like you just mentioned, it's like literally like lit my soul on fire hearing you say that, like making your kitchen your sanctuary. And that's, I think, one of the things, like, because my background, I'm an attorney, and that's what I was doing, and realizing that when I was at work most of the day, like that wasn't my sanctuary, right? Like my sanctuary was when I got home and I got to cook. Like that was when I turned my favorite music on. I like had no stress in the world. And I looked at my kitchen as like, I get to create. Like this is like my canvas, right? And so, you know, in my kitchen, I have like this little kind of sanctuary I created where I have all these motivational quotes all over my kitchen. And it's really like I turn on my oldies. I love my, you know, Frankie Valli. Like I get all super nerdy and I just kind of go into my flow state. And those are the most amazing meals I've ever made, is when I make it emotionally, mentally, like my space to create. And so I love that you guys are like doing that and like kind of saying, let's not make it like a punishment. I got to throw something to dinner, you know, real quick together for dinner, but making it like this beautiful moment of like whatever you're about to create is going to go into your body, into your kids' bodies, into your, you know, your loved ones, and you know, bringing like that like just moment of like pure connection back into the food, which I love. And
people always say too, you know, oh, I followed my grandmother's recipe exactly like she did it. Why does it not taste the same? And it really is that kind of like that love and intention that she put into that food while she was making it does make it taste different too. So
100%. And that's like one of the things that, you know, Sue and I talked about, like when we first connected a while back, was like, you know, it's kind of crazy, but it sounds kind of esoteric and woo-woo, but like, no, like we're starting to kind of realize that there was some really exciting science behind, you know, what's happening to the molecules as like one person's holding them, because everything's water, right? Like all those plants and everything that you're cooking as food is water, and it does, you know, it responds to the environment that it's in. So there's actual, you know, things that you can do, you know, to enhance the love in your food, even if it's, you know, saying a gratitude saying or a prayer or whatever it is that connects and resonates with you, you know, stopping and just like, you know, having gratitude for the food that's in front of you before you first eat it. Like all of those little things, and, you know, that we kind of take for granted nowadays when we're just like eating out all the time and not really having that moment to just like reflect and, you know, let our nervous systems calm down. And, you know, like there's, you know, I just such a foodie that I think that like, you know, my food will never taste like my mom's because my mom didn't make it. But if I'm thinking about her while I'm making it, and, you know, I'm playing the music that we listen to together, and you're kind of like recreating that, you know, food can be the most incredible experience. And I don't think I've really seen a business put it together the way that you guys have put it together. And so it's like, I love it. Like, I think it's in the fact that you guys are doing it together, like it just like, it makes me feel so warm and fuzzy inside. And, you know, anybody that's listening, if you're in Buffalo, you know, and you haven't been to Her Sanctuary, make sure you guys stop in and see them. And, you know, especially if you're not plant-based and you're interested in trying to figure it out, you know, they have online courses with Her Kitchen, which you could literally just do from home. You literally can just watch from home, and, you know, kind of let's all kind of push in that journey of more plant-based and, you know, more plants in general, but also putting all the love back into our bodies and our sanctuary. So
our bodies are, you know, too, is our bodies are our sanctuary, you know, that's our temple, to honor that. And I think what you talked about before, and then I'll end on that, for me is that, you know, that's what drove me so much, is that this is my one body that I get on this earth. And, you know, it's a temple to me. And I mean, you wouldn't put crappy gas in your car. So like, I'm not going to put bad things into my body, you know, because I'm honoring it the best way that I can. So
awesome. And, you know, real quick, if you guys can tell us, if anybody wants to reach out, how can they do that? Tell us what your website, your social media, how can anybody reach out to you guys? And then any last, you know, thing you want to say, please tell everybody how they can incorporate all these amazing things into their life.
Yeah. So our websites are Her Story Buffalo, Her Kitchen Buffalo, or HerSanctuaryBuffalo.com. And social media, it's at Her Story Buffalo, at Her Kitchen Buffalo, or at Her Sanctuary Buffalo.
And I think that the thing that I want to say is, you know what, to be gentle with yourself, and you know what, that's first and foremost. and remember that you're not alone, and we're here to help. We're here to listen, and we're here to, start you on your journey of wellness, mentally, spiritually, and physically. And if we can't help you, we also have resources. And that's another thing that I really love. If someone comes to me with something, it's like, and I can't answer that, then I'm going to help you find the person that can. I will help you find that woman that can get you the answers that you need, and that we are a community working together to nourish each other the best way that we can. So we're very grateful that you had us on your podcast. And
well, no, thank you guys.
Yeah,
for the community too.
Yeah, yeah, definitely good stuff. And you know what? It's all about working together, because that's how we're going to get it done. And like you said, women, we are strong.
Oh my goodness. Especially, one woman is, just the most powerful force in nature, but multiple women together in the same room with the same mission is like, that's how the world changes. So I'm so grateful you guys were on here to chat with me. And I know this coming up week, Food Nerd will be in her, will be all in the monthly subscription box you guys are sending out. So super exciting. So we're going to keep working together. I know it. And I think what you guys are creating, I will make sure to get all the female entrepreneurs over your way, so you guys can keep growing and keep, putting your influence across the nation. So thank you guys so much for being on today.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you for all you do. Be well. Okay.
Of course. Awesome. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining another episode of Raw Conversations. Please make sure to rate and subscribe and review, and visit foodnerdinc.com for any more questions. Until then, nerd on, and we love you guys so much. And thank you so much to Sue and Ciara. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.